All right. Howdy, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Okayest Trapper podcast. As always, we're brought to you by some sponsors: Cryptic Clothing, Blokes Modern Men's Health, Mountain Tough Fitness, Trapline Beard Oil, and both the Idaho and National Trappers Association. Do me a favor, go leave us a 5-star review on whatever platform you're tuning in from and use the promo codes in the show notes for some great discounts from these great brands. Now, my guest today is a fellow millennial hailing from Idaho and Montana. And for the past 15 years, he's been a professional trapper, a taxidermist, and has targeted and mounted just about every critter you can imagine. If you've been into any big hunting trade shows, then you've also likely seen some of his soft mount wolf work at the Foundation for Wildlife Management booths. He's also the star of Oh, yeah, it's right behind his shoulder now, too. That's awesome. He's also the star of 360 Sportsman's upcoming trapping masterclass. Andrew Lovick, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me. I've been looking forward to joining you and talking a little bit about what we got going on.
Yeah, I'm pumped too. I can't wait to get to the soft mounts. I can't wait to get to the 360 Sportsman's. However, we got to start with the same question I ask every guest.
Yep.
If you can reach back into your core memories from childhood, youth, whatever, when is the first time in your life that you remember being exposed to trapping?
Yeah, it was probably about 15 years ago. I moved to Montana, Libby, Montana, and I got a job at a taxidermy shop over there, Hayes Taxidermy. And I started working there, and he had a couple conibear traps just tucked up against the wall. And I'd never been like exposed to trapping. And I was like, "What are those?" And he's like, "Oh, those are 330 conibear traps for like beaver, bobcat." And I was like, "Oh, that's awesome." And he showed me how to set them. And I just moved to Montana, so I'd been out kind of exploring, and I found a couple spots where like the beavers had been going into like the bank den sets, and it was on top of it was called Wolf Creek, and it was like the creek was all froze over, and I could see where the beavers had been going into the holes, and I set two conibear traps with one on each hole. And the first trap truck I went back, I had two beavers and I was hooked. Like I was all in from there on out. I've never missed a season since. Trapping is the most addicting thing I've ever done in my life. Like it comes around every fall, and like the leaves start to fall, and I get that trapping aroma of lures and getting your traps ready and stuff, and I love it. I love it.
That's awesome. Well, so let's go back a little bit then. So, I myself am an adult onset trapper. I started trapping 6-7 years ago in my late 20s. I know we're about the same age. I think you're 35, 36.
Yep.
So 15 years ago, technically you're kind of an adult onset trapper too.
Yeah,
Let's
absolutely.
start with what got you to Libby, Montana? Obviously the taxidermy, but were you a hunter before? Like, I'm curious, like what got you into taxidermy and then what drew you out to Montana?
Yeah. So right outside of high school, I didn't want to go to college. So I was looking at trade schools and stuff. So the two things I was most interested in was hunting at the time and firearms. So my two options in my mind was I was going to be a taxidermist or I was going to be a gunsmith. And so I started looking at different trade schools I could go to, and I found a taxidermy training school in Thompson Falls, Montana. And so I moved out there, did a 6-week course there.
Wait, real quick before you finish, where are you from? Like, where was this curiosity around like the hunting and gunsmithing? Like, were you in Montana or were you from a different state?
I was from North Idaho, like up in Coeur d'Alene, Post Falls area. I went to high school up here. And so I always had like that outdoor drive and enthusiastic about hunting and like the outdoor life. And so that's kind of why I went either hunting direction. And I just I chose taxidermy because I really like guns, and I love like the long range, but I didn't know if I really wanted to make that like a career for me. Looking back, it probably would have been a pretty sweet gun job, like. But yeah, it really drew me to taxidermy. So I grew up in Idaho, graduated, went to a trade school in Thompson Falls, Montana, and then from there I moved back to Idaho because it was like 2009 and 10. Like nobody was really hiring back then. Um, so I got a job for about 6 months, and then I got a job offer in Libby, Montana, doing taxidermy work for John Hayes at Hayes Taxidermy Studios over there. I was over there for 7 years, and that's where I really learned how to like hunt and trap. I really honed my trapping in Montana, and yeah, I started trapping like I jumped all in. Like I bought water traps, land traps, conibear traps, all sorts of stuff. And I trapped beaver, otter, mink, muskrat, raccoons. I even trapped red fox in Libby, Montana. Tons of coyotes and stuff. But I kind of stopped water trapping because you catch so much stuff, and I am a taxidermist, so I skin stuff all day, and then I was skinning stuff at night. I was catching too much stuff, water trapping with beavers and stuff to really keep up on it. So I kind of switched over to bobcat trapping, and the season in Montana always was like really short. It was like a quota system for bobcats, and it was like 275 bobcats for all of Region One, which encompasses like Libby, Troy, Flathead Lake, it, like Eureka. It was a huge unit, and all the hound hunters, and all the trappers would really hammer it like right off the bat. I'd have to do like a lot of preseason baiting and get my cubbies ready, and because once season hits, you'd have about 15 days to try to get your quota. I think you can get three at the time. Yeah, three at the time. So
That's
yeah, really had to stay on top of it.
Well, I mean, that dive into trapping, we're gonna deep dive into there, but I want to start even a little bit further back. So, like, you landed at Hayes Taxidermy, where you did your trade school, went back
Yep.
to Idaho for a little bit. This is near and dear to my heart too. So I'll send you a copy of my new book. It's called The Trade Gap,
Yeah.
and I include taxidermy in that because to condense a long story in a short form, 2023. I mean, I've always worked in technology.
Yeah.
I lost my job for the first time, and thanks to trapping, I have become relatively decent at skinning out critters.
Yeah.
And the only job I could get was at a taxidermy shop here local in Idaho. So I was skinning out bears and
Yeah.
like learning to do some mounting and stuff like that on the side. So like it's very near and dear to my heart.
Oh, that's awesome.
But with you, like I'm curious, like what was it like going to taxidermy school? Because like I've only been exposed to like some of the basics. Like I had a mentor in a taxidermy shop saying like, no, here's how you really skin out a bear. Here's how you really do X, Y, and Z. Here's how you work with wet hides. What is that like for people who've never done it and only have gone to like friends' houses and seen cool deer mounts? Like,
Yeah.
what is like the condensed version of everything you learn? And I want to parlay that into probably how that made you a better trapper out of the gate. But I'm just curious, like what the condensed version of education is and what you do in the 8-week schooling or however long it is before you go out and work for an actual shop.
Yeah, there is a huge like learning curve because they're trying to condense like years and years of knowledge, all down into like a 6 week course. And so I would have to say it's a good starting point. Even if you go to a school, like I would definitely not like jump out of a school and open up your own business. You really need to apprentice under like people who have been where you're at and have a really great product, and you can really learn a lot from apprenticing. I apprenticed under Hayes for 7 years before I came back, and I work for Nick now, and I've been there for 8 years. But yeah, the school kind of really teaches you just like the ABCs, like prepping the mannequins, getting the capes ready for the mounts. They didn't really teach you like a lot of skinning and stuff. I didn't learn that until I got a job at a taxidermy shop. And then they really teach you, hey, this is how we skin something out, and this is how we take care of things. And I would definitely apprentice like under somebody for a couple of years before you ever like open up your own shop. because there is such a big learning curve and so many different kinds of animals to mount and to get accustomed to. Yeah.
Now, did you do like the full bevy? Because like again, when I was kind of doing my mini apprenticeship during my unemployment time, like I was thinking like maybe I should go to, taxidermy school. And everywhere I looked, it was impressive because it'd be like 8 weeks, 12 weeks, 30 weeks, whatever. But it'd be like this set of time for deer mounts, this set of time for other critters, and doing the pedestals, and then there's fish and turkey and
Yeah.
everything else. Like, so did you do a similar thing where you touched on the ABCs of all of that, or were you specializing in a certain area?
Yeah, it was kind of like a 6-week course to specialize on all of that. So like they really jam like a lot at you, and then when you go home, you're like, okay, okay, perfect. I'm ready to open up my own shop, and you're like, whoa, whoa, they didn't teach you how to skin out an animal and how to salt it, and that's the really like the core thing. Because if somebody brings you an animal and you can only taxidermy a dry skin, and you don't know how to like preserve that animal for tanning, you're definitely going to have some hiccups along the way.
Well, I mean, that's a great segue then, because this will get back to the trapping. So you landed in Libby, you were working with Hayes, you saw some conibears, you set those, and you got your first beaver. Like, did that help accelerate you even in your taxidermy career? Because now all of a sudden you've got customer stuff you're doing, of course, and you're learning on the job, skinning out there. But then you also have extra practice, like you said, where you've got your 9 to 5 job, and then, oh shit, I just got 5 beaver today, and now I got to do 5 beaver.
Oh yeah, and like Montana was like so plentiful, full of game. It's crazy how much more game there is in Montana than even here in Idaho. Like I was like trapping way more beaver, way more coyotes, and like Montana. Like I always say that Montana was like the mystery box. Like around a corner, you never know like what animal you're going to see next. It could be a badger, it could be a skunk, porcupine. I mean, it was just so plentiful, full of game. It was a great place to kind of learn how to trap because you had a lot of opportunities and a lot of public land to go out and do that. Uh, yeah, it was a pretty sweet setup there.
So you said like you were hook, line, and sinker once you caught those first 2 beaver. Did you?
Yep.
I mean, was it Hayes or was it somebody else that was kind of mentoring you like in those first years, or was it kind of a self-taught experience of now I'm into it, YouTube, the whole thing that we've been lucky enough to have as millennials? Like, what was your approach in, spreading out and then going to otters and other critters?
Yeah, it was all hands-on experience. Like I talked to like a couple like old timers like in Libby that used to trap and they were kind of out of the game. They gave me a couple pointers, but everything I've trapped in like my career has all been self-taught. Like my coyotes, my bobcats, it's a good idea because like I was getting on YouTube watching a bunch of YouTube videos, and one guy says one thing, another guy says another thing, and there's so much information out there, and it gets pretty confusing. You're like, oh, I'll try this, and it doesn't work as good for me as it does for this guy. And what I tell people is just get out in the field, try something, learn from it. Like the best experience is hands-on experience and reading the scenario of like the trap, and like, okay, this trap is set off. Like, why is it set off? Did a deer set it off? And then you get better at reading tracks, like animal tracks. Like before I started trapping, like if I saw like an animal track in the mud, I'd be like, oh, I don't know what it is, but like now I can tell you if it's an otter, if it's a mink, or if it's a skunk, just by I've skinned out so many animals and skinned out so many feet, studying like the claws and like the toe patterns and everything. You can really read a scenario, and it makes you a better trapper. And across the board makes you a better hunter.
Yeah, that has been like, I think this will be episode 63 or 64. And I've talked to a lot of great trappers, a lot of new trappers, but I think the one common denominator is every trapper has said it makes me a better hunter, which is 100% true.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you really learn the animal. Like if I have to give anybody advice is when you're just getting into trapping, I would just pick one species of animal. Just pick one. You want to go after beaver, get really good at trapping beaver. And then once you feel like you've mastered that, or you're like, I can go out and set traps and catch beaver whenever I want, then try another animal, because you'll get so like overwhelmed with like the knowledge of like, okay, I got to do this for this this kind of stuff, and it's overwhelming, and you'll half-ass a lot of stuff if you try to go after beaver, coyotes, bobcats, marten line. You're gonna half-ass it, and it's better just to pick one and get real focused at it, and then when you get tired of like catching so many of those, then just branch off to different species of animal.
Man, I wish I had that advice when I started, because I am had that half-ass guy, because I went, mile wide, inch deep at
Yep.
first, and then you do start to find what you
What you like.
gravitate towards, right? And then
Yep.
you can start to go a little bit deeper. But yeah, I think that's great advice for new folks who are really starting to get into it. I do want to ask this, because again, we're geared a little bit towards newer trappers. In those first years, so you're a new apprentice at a taxidermy shop in Libby, you're out beaver trapping, kind of expanding out to other critters, like you said. Do you remember what the biggest mistake you ever made on your trap line was as a kind of newer trapper?
Yeah, not understanding lure and scent. Like when I first started trapping, like beaver trapping, I bought a kayak. I was cruising channels and stuff, and I was setting a bunch of like just beaver holes or like lodges, and like I was catching fur like here or there, but I was buying some new traps, and I was early 20s. I was in Montana. I wasn't making much money, but I was in like God's country, dude. So I was happy. So I told the guy on the phone that I was buying the traps from, I'm like, I've never bought lure before. Why don't you throw me in two of your best beaver lures? And so he threw in two beaver lures, and I went out on my line. I dabbed at each set, to try out lure. I'm like, how are they ever gonna smell this, right? Like this tiny little bit, it's not gonna make that much of a difference. Man, my kayak was full of fur. Like that next check, man, I had a 55-pound beaver. I had a couple smaller ones. I had muskrats. I was like, holy cow. Just using like the right lure was what really upped your game.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I've been there too, and I agree with it. On the contrary, too, and this one is going to be an interesting question for you, because most of the time I ask this question, people are like, yeah, I never skinned out much of anything by the time I started trapping, outside of a few deer here and there. But do you remember what the biggest mistake you made in your first shed, which might have been the taxidermy shop for you when you first started trapping?
Oh yeah, probably. I would probably say fleshing, like fleshing the animal down and making sure you get all of that clean, like all the way down. Don't half-ass it. Don't leave a little bit here thinking, oh, that's going to be okay. Because when it comes down to it and you're selling your fur, like the quality of the way you put up your fur is what's going to get you the most bang for your buck at the end of the year. And like the cool thing about trapping is, at the end of the year, you do get some money back if you sell some fur. You could be a snowmobiler where you go out, you buy $10,000 sled, and then like you wreck it, and then you got to fix parts on it at the end of the year. At the end of trapping season, we get a little bit of money back. Like, is it enough to get rich on? No, it's not. But like, I don't mind it when like fur prices are in the toilet, because it leaves the diehard trappers. Like the guys that are gonna be trapping, whether the bobcat's worth $150 or if it's worth like $1,000, like we saw in like 2011.
Yeah. Yeah. With that too, like a follow-on question, from your perspective as a taxidermist, one of the things that I've noticed, most of us trappers, like you said, are putting up our fur. We'll sell it at the end of the season or get it tanned and do something with it. But occasionally, right, as a trapper, you get that one critter who you're like, oh, wow, okay, yeah, maybe I want to do something more with this, not sell it, maybe mount it, get a soft mount.
Yep.
What's your advice to trappers who have that once in a lifetime critter that they decide they want to do something else? Like, two-part question. Like, what would you suggest they do?
Okay.
And
Yeah.
B, like, what is the biggest mistake you see from people who still try to skin out their own critters and then want to get it mounted or do something special with it?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I'd probably have to say that like trappers, most of them, like if you're putting up for fur, you're not really worried about like the eyes or like the nose or even like that bottom jaw. You typically cut that bottom jaw right off of like coyotes and stuff, just to let air flow because it's not worth anything anyways. And so I would definitely say that.
Well, so, but with that though, like, what's the suggestion then? Like, would you just say like, hey, keep that critter whole and bring it into your taxidermist? Is that the best option in that case?
Yeah. So I would case cut it, and skin it up to right at like the wrist,
Mhm.
and then just cut that bone off like right at that wrist. Leave the feet and head like in the animals because as trappers, you're like, oh, I can skin off a face, but you're not going to go as slow around the eyes, or you might make a slice on the back corner where like if you cut the back corner of your eye for like fur market, it's not really going to matter. But for taxidermy and getting like the best quality mount you can, I would definitely just leave the head in and leave the feet in, and leave because like trappers don't really skin the feet out unless they're gonna be putting things up for taxidermy grades. So yeah, the average fur trapper isn't gonna take the time to skin out each toe or have the knowledge of doing that.
Yeah. So there you go, trappers. If you want a critter mounted really cool, do that. Case cut it and leave the bones in the feet and
Yeah.
skull in the head and go
Yep.
from there. But
Right.
one of the things that attracted me to you and wanted to chat is obviously I've seen a lot of your soft mounts. One
Yeah.
of the ones you kind of pulled up right when we started chatting, one sitting right behind you.
Yeah.
So, from a layman's point of view, yeah, so cool. Like a layman's point of view, like that's not a common taxidermy request. I think it's becoming more popular from what I can tell. But like, was
Yep.
that something you learned early on, or was this a specialty that kind of came about later on in?
It's definitely a specialty that it has came around. I definitely learned how to do it in Montana, and then I just kind of find honed it from there. And then I just did this as well. This one's a Wolverine.
Yeah, I saw that. I was hoping you might actually have that on hand before you shipped it off to Alaska, but
Yep.
that's awesome.
Yeah, this one came from Alaska from a trapper up there. So that was the first Wolverine soft mount I've ever done, and yeah, they're pretty neat. People love throwing them over their shoulders and answering the front doors, putting them on the guest bed, and so
Well, well,
they're
what's kind of the, just from like a taxidermy perspective, like is it a wholly different beast to tackle, or is it very much in the same vein as doing a regular mount?
yeah, it's definitely a different beast to tackle, and I would say like the animals that look the best are going to be coyotes, wolves, and fox. They naturally curl up like that, and this one was killed by Kate Smalls. She's a pretty big wolf trapper. You might
She,
know
she
her.
was actually my third guest on this show.
Okay, yeah. So that's Kate's wolf from last year. I just got it finished up for her, and I'm going to be shipping it down for her.
That's too cool, man. Well, with that, now you've had 15 years of trapping. You know, did you get the wolf bug yet on the trap line, or have you kind of,
It,
I did, and it has taken up way too much of my time. So I'm just curious, like, especially with where you're at, have you kind of gotten sucked into that sphere?
so if I would have stayed in Montana, I definitely would have been a wolf trapper. Here in North Idaho, there's so much, like it's real narrow up here in the panhandle, so we're getting a lot more people moving up here, not as much national forest to really trap on, and I primarily in Idaho stick to private properties. I get a lot of connections through the taxidermy world, and I'm pretty well known for coyote trapping. And
Mhm.
so when people have problems with coyotes at their deer hunting spots on their private properties, I get access to like hundreds of acres of land, And it's a really good, like, trappers have like a really good relationship with landowners, because like when there's a problem, they're going to call a trapper, whether it be a coyote problem. Hey, these are eating my too many coyotes are eating my deer. Hey, I got some skunks in my chicken coop, can you come take care of that? And it's a really good like foot in the door opportunity as a hunter as well. You can knock on somebody's door and be like, hey, can I hunt your property? And that's going to be shot down with a quick no, because you don't know them. But if you show up to somebody's property and you're a good trapper, and you're like, hey, do you got a coyote problem around here? And they're like, yeah, we do. And you're like, oh, okay. And just start with just trapping and catch some coyotes. They'll be super happy. You'll save their deer population. Maybe the next spring they might invite you out for like a turkey hunt. I've been invited back out on properties for bear hunts. Like, hey, you killed some coyotes. Why don't you come kill this bear that's raiding the apple trees? I'm like, yeah, you betcha. So like trapping is a really good way to get your foot in the door with private landowners.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a superpower. I came out to Idaho, 7 years ago now, and it was all for big game hunting. Trapping wasn't on my radar.
Yeah.
But then, like you, I kind of got exposed to it through an old timer, realized I could do a lot more year round, become a better hunter, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But the amount of doors that it does open for being a better hunter, besides just, game recognition and understanding quarry, is access, right? Like, you do some things that benefit the highway department when beavers are flooding roads, or, insert any problem, critter, issue that you can help solve as a trapper is a great way to build rapport, A, for the trapping community writ large, and B, personally, because then you can get some special invites and things like that. Is there any, like, outside of the bear hunting and turkey hunting, any job you did that you remember that kind of resulted in, some other great access that you had?
No, I would definitely say like trapping and like taxidermy definitely gives me like that 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 door that opens for opportunity. Like, oh, you hunt, or oh, you trap. I have like 100 acres or 20 acres, and this is what I need taken care of. You want to come out? And I get more access to private property than I can go trap, because I got a full-time job. I trap as much as I can, and I got a couple kids too. So it's a juggling act. I still have that drive to go trapping like every single year, and I've never missed a season. But yeah, it's a lot to juggle. So like I get more access to people's property than I can even go trap, and so I kind of spread that love out with a couple buddies too. So like I'll send them on a hot lead, and I'll be like, hey, you want to go trap some raccoons? I got a hot lead, and they're like, hell yeah. So they're always looking for like a for sure thing, when you can kind of like narrow it down and be like, hey, go set this spot, and they'll go have some success, and it's a win-win for everybody.
Man, that's cool. For me, it's been special to kind of grow in that way too. And like you said, it's hard every year. Like I haven't missed a season either since I've started, but I've got 3 kids 4 and under.
Yeah.
I got out for a velvet buck hunt last weekend and like made it a ninja strike in 36 hours, tagged out back home so I could be with the kids. Like it does become more pointed, but specifically for you, I'm curious, how do you stay motivated? Because I have a 9-to-5 job.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, during trapping season, it's such type 2 fun, because you go out, you trap, it's hard work. You go check your lines like maybe 4 or 5 in the morning before your day starts. You might have a pile of fur. And unlike me, I get to go sit behind a computer and spend my day like relatively at ease. But for you, you're in a taxidermy shop, you're around critters all day. How do you keep the motivation to then, clock out essentially and go skin out however much fur you've got for the day?
Oh man, it's a grind. And but I'll skip lunch breaks. I'll skin fur out on lunch breaks. Or once I put the kids to bed, I'll come out in the garage at 9, 10 o'clock at night, do an hour or so of skinning, and then at that point I'll either throw it in the freezer and just like accumulate it, and then at like the end of the season or when I need more freezer space, then I'll have a day where I flesh everything out and start putting everything up and kind of tidying things up that route. But yeah, definitely freezers help.
Yeah. So you do a lot of rough skinning and then save it and then do another time for like fleshing and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yep. Definitely got to juggle your time. And like, I'll try not to skin as much as, well, I'll skin everything, but like, I try not to put up any fur until the end of the season because I don't want to hit that burnout factor, like waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning, running my line before I go to work. And luckily, I got a pretty cool job. So like, if I show up late because I'm super successful that morning, like I get a lot of high fives.
Yeah, that's the great thing. I don't get as many high fives in corporate America for showing up with blood on my hands on a Zoom call, but
Yeah,
maybe
be like,
one day.
"What? I had an awesome morning, guys. Come on."
Oh, come on, like hey, share the love. They're like, nope,
Yeah.
definitely not. But one of the things that I wanted to really talk to you about is, again, you were essentially an adult onset trapper. I'm an adult onset trapper. I believe it's becoming a little bit more popular. I think people are getting hip to the fact that it can make you a better hunter. You get more time out in the field, especially in a place like Idaho. Like there's critters we can trap year round.
Yeah.
You're working with 360 Sportsman. I've had a couple of folks who've built courses with them on this before, and I know you were leading and have filmed the masterclass for trapping.
Yeah.
And I'd love for you to give like a little bit of an idea of like what people can expect, because a lot of our listeners are people who, either are new to trapping or maybe are on the fence about getting into it. And one of the things I talk a lot about is, there's a lot of YouTube stuff, but there's not usually a soup to nuts like, hey, here's the basics of trapping. Here's how you can go do it. Here's how you set a trap, blah, blah, blah. And it sounds like to me, just not having any exposure to it yet, that's a lot of what you cover. So if you can like give us the rundown of how it came about, A, and then B, what people who end up purchasing the class can expect out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Taylor from 360 Sportsman was seen me online, and the Stuck in the Rut guys know me pretty well. I went to high school with Adam Grenda here in Coeur d'Alene, and so I know Tom and them, and they do a lot of those master classes. And so Taylor reached out to me to do a trapping class and to see if I'd be interested in teaching people how to trap. And in this course, I kind of covered the basics of everything. So like it's not just for like beginners. Like if you're having a hard time on your line or just want to catch more fur, I go over like everything. But from the beginning, I go over like which kind of traps are most common on the modern day trap line. I go over trap modification, like what I do to each trap before I wax and dye it. I'll go over boiling the traps, waxing the traps, and then going out in the field and setting the traps. And I also touch base on lure, set locations, like how to pick good locations like out in the field, because when you get out to like a field, it's huge. Like let's say a 40-acre field, like where do you even start? And I kind of like funneled it all down and showed people like the best spots to trap in the field are like the high spots and like the low spots, just where the animals kind of get a good vantage point, and then where they kind of feed out, and natural funnel systems. So I kind of go over everything in this course. So like if you are completely new into trapping, I'm going to teach you guys everything to get you going and get you catching for the first year. And so the course is set right at like $100, and you can either sign up for like the 360 a premium package, which gives you all access to like all the different courses, or just sign up for each individual course. Mine is set out at like right under $100. And if somebody takes the course, they're guaranteed going to save gas money versus like checking a bunch of it and like empty traps back and forth. It's really going to put you on a better path to catching animals right away, because that was a big curve, like a learning curve for me as a new trapper to go out and set traps and to check empty traps and to check more empty traps. And another thing that I would do as an early trapper is be like, oh, he didn't go to the set, so I'd go and like mess with it like a little bit more. And it's like, no, you don't need to touch it. You just need to stay back, let the set work, like the human scent dissipate, go away, and then just let the lure and your trap do the job for you.
Man, that in and of itself is a lesson of a new trapper is worth $100. I mean, even after a few seasons, especially doing like wolf traps, man, like that whole idea of like once steel's on the ground, leave it on the ground.
Yeah, absolutely.
You go 10, 20, 30 days, and all of a sudden I'm like, I have to move this trap. They're not here. Then you move it, and the next day you like either catch something on camera or, see prints go through and you're like, oh man, why did I do that? So
yeah, absolutely. I've set traps in early like October for coyotes. Like I have a chunk of 120 acres that I trap for coyotes. I've probably pulled, no joke, 50 coyotes off this property in the last 5 years or so. It's right next to the train tracks, a highway, and it's like the biggest chunk of land right next to the highway, and the animals just kind of funnel to it. So the coyotes hit it pretty hard because there's always roadkill, and there's always like kills from like the trains hitting the animals too. So it's a real good food source in there. And if you hit it real hard, like it really helps your deer population out.
yeah, I mean, 100%. Follow on question. I'm curious about the filming. I mean, obviously Taylor does a great job, like very high quality. It makes sense to me when you go and you do like a master class around elk hunting or, wolf calling. You get to go out for 2-3 days, whatever. You see the results of, getting critters in, hopefully harvesting an animal, but trapping and filming that has to be hard. Like, what was the time frame for you guys to like do that? And then, I'm sure you come back to sets and you're like, yeah, let the set work. It's like, well, how long is this going to take? You're like, I don't know, weeks. Like, how did you guys kind of navigate the realities of trapping and getting good
So I started trapping 1 week before filming. I threw only like a dozen sets out, and we ended up catching 2 coyotes and a skunk on camera. Since then, I'm up to like 5 coyotes and 5 skunks now. But yeah, I just threw some traps out. Fingers crossed that like the animals would come to it. And animals react to sets differently at different times of the year. If it's not too cold of a winter or it's a late winter, those coyotes, they're going to be out mousing out in the fields, just fine, and they're not going to be hungry. They're not going to want to work your set. So different seasons and like different temperatures really does affect how much fur you're catching. So if you trap early, you might not catch like as much because the coyotes or the bobcats are going to have a wide variety of food. But come wintertime, the animals are going to kind of be condensed down to the winter ranges, and those winter ranges are going to be where you want to target all of those animals.
Too cool. So it's available now or is it coming out soon?
It's coming out in September, so a couple weeks out. We're in production or editing right now, so they're going through and fine tuning things, and then it'll be out for purchase.
Cool. Well, we'll make sure that we link that here, and obviously it's great timing for trapping season. So if you're on the fence, go get your trapper education course, order this course, and then get out there this season. Don't wait another season. You only have so many of these in our lifetime. So, go out and do it. Getting closer to the end of the show, we still got a good bit of time to chat, but I like to kind of go through a whole bevy of different questions. With you've done all sorts of critters. If you had to trap one critter for the rest of your life, what would it be?
It'd be coyotes. Coyotes for sure. Tricking a coyote into stepping on your trap, like when you see a coyote flopping around when you're pulling up, I don't know, dude. I get a rush. Like I absolutely love it. I like bobcat trapping a lot, but yeah, definitely coyotes because you get more coyotes than you do bobcats. So I like numbers, and we touched a little bit on like if I ever got like the wolf trapping bug yet. Just based off of my job and like how much time I got to do a 40-hour week, I still have like a small trap line and a family life. Uh, Wolf trapping, I definitely there's that calling to like, yeah, I definitely it's the last one on my bucket list to check off for trapping, and like I have that calling, but I just don't have the time, to do a real wolf line. You're looking at 150 miles round trip from your house, like, and you have to do it 3 days, and you might have maybe 1 to 3 glorious days of like wolf trapping in a season. And so there you're out there for 2, 3 months for maybe one day or maybe a couple days. I definitely hats off to the wolf trappers out there that are putting in like the hard work, but just where I'm at, I can't go all the way out there to wolf trap, but coyote trapping. I mean, I absolutely love coyote trapping.
Yeah.
Just to catch them. I like our timber dogs up here in like North Idaho. How like they have like that dark tipping on the back line, but
Yep. Yeah, that's cool, man. Like I feel that statement you had this past year. My wife and I had our third child, and my wolf season was just abysmal. It was like, I could go out, get 2 weeks in, but then need to pull because I wouldn't be able to make it out for 3
yeah,
more weeks. And then, you just can't trap
yeah,
wolf with a 2 week on, 2 week off period. Like, you could do it, and I still got out there and did it, but I had no success. And that was just the reality of it. So like this season, I'm kind of pulling back,
yeah,
focusing on like my water trapping and other stuff that's a little
yeah,
bit closer to home, higher yield,
yeah.
so I don't burn myself out.
Yeah, because with trapping, you really got to just let it set and let it work. I've caught a coyote on a trap that I put in October, and I caught him at the end of January. So it was like in the ground. There's definitely a portion where it was covered in snow, but like I left it alone, let my set work, and at the end of the season, I hit coyote number 30 off of that one set that I just left alone. And like I didn't touch it, I didn't rebait it, I didn't do anything. And a coyote came along after a couple months, and I've been checking that trap. A couple months just driving by, nope, nothing, nope, nothing. And it was the last coyote to hit 30. And it's just a testament of just let your trap soak and just keep it there. Like the lure's fine if they're hungry or if they catch that wind just right, they're gonna work your set. So
Well, hats off to you on that one. I don't know if I would have had the patience to do that. I'd be driving by. I'm like, I'm definitely moving this. But yeah, that's true testament right there.
yeah,
Um,
I also had probably 2 dozen traps like out in that area, so I just just leave them alone. If you put them in, you put the work in to just let them sit.
okay, so a few esoteric kind of trapping questions. What do you think most either new to trapping or kind of people who are trap curious misunderstand about trapping and what it's all about?
Oh man, I think that are new to trapping or don't know anything about it, they think it's just like absolutely cruel. The modern traps are designed to like hold the animal and not to hurt the animal. Like back in like the European days when like they first invented traps, they're invented to catch humans. They used it to protect the castle and stuff like that. Going forward with like the old school bear traps, how like they had the teeth and stuff, people thought that those were cruel and like and messed up, but those teeth were actually like designed to like kind of puncture the skin a little bit and let some of like that build up and like that uh, coagulated blood and stuff like let some stuff drain, and it was meant for like movement. And like nowadays we have like wider jaw sets, and we have like we have gaps, and when the animal is caught, it allows for circulation in the foot, and it doesn't get the animal frostbite or stuff. So they're more humane traps, and everything is regulated by the state that you are trapping in. So all the trappers are following the rules that the state says we're allowed to do. So we're out there, and people, other people on public land are out there. So we all have to kind of like work together. They have every right to be walking their dog out there, and I have every right to be setting traps out there. We just gotta try to not
Yeah,
catch people's dogs, and, and
100%.
and make a bad name for trapping.
Yeah, that's fully. And that's a great segue into my next kind of and last serious question before we go into our lightning round at the end is what do you see as the future of trapping in North America?
In North America, I see it expanding. Like you look at some states like Washington, where they're super regulated on trapping. They can only use like live traps. You got California that can't use foothold traps, and like other states, kind of Oregon has a lot of restrictions on trapping. I definitely see people, or like every year the fish and game rules change for trapping. Like you got to stay informed, like every single year, like what rules and setbacks are, and like what defines something as bait. Like everything changes every year. And so I definitely see trapping increasing in popularity, which I'm hoping brings positive flow for trapping and for the future of trapping. But trapping is like one of the oldest jobs we have in America. It's what brought us out west. So I would hate to see it leave like this landscape forever. But I definitely see trapping in the future for our generations to enjoy, as long as we're responsible outdoorsmen, and set like good pictures and kind of teach people the right way of how to do it.
Well, I mean, I'm in your boat. I'm definitely a glass half full. There's definitely moments in the public space where you're like, oh, this is going away. But
Yep.
like you said, historically, it has a place in our culture that I think is valuable, that we need to preserve at all costs. Okay, so kind of lightning rounds. I've got three final questions,
Yep.
two of which are ones I ask every guest, and then I have a special one just for you. But first one, what's the wildest experience you've ever had in the woods, trapping or otherwise?
Oh man, the wildest experience. Man, one time I was setting this one spot for coyotes, and I set three traps down this road. I called it Coyote Alley because it was a real tight kind of like skid road, but there was coyote crap all up and down this roadway. And so I set three traps, one on like the left hand side of the road, one on the right hand side, and one right in the middle. And I came back to check it, and I had two coyotes and a turkey leg in the middle. So what happened, like reading like the situation, is I trapped a turkey. Turkeys came by, stepped in one of my traps, and I released tons of turkeys. But I didn't get a chance to release this one because two coyotes came around the corner, saw the turkey, killed the turkey, devoured it. There's only a leg left, so they were there just like milling around, enjoying a nice turkey dinner. They both split up, and bam, bam, I caught them in each one of my sets. So around the corner here, I have a coyote, a dead turkey, and another coyote. And I'm like, oh, what an awesome day. Went up the road a little bit further, had another coyote. So yeah, that's probably
Well,
one
a
of
head nod too. Like,
my.
that's one of the most fun and interesting parts of trapping is after the success,
Mhm.
figuring out like, your Matlock or some sort of like detective like Sherlock, like how did this thing transpire? Like
Yeah,
what came in? And that's a great example of it because you might have been like, well, did a turkey just pull out of my set and leave? No. And then
yeah.
you realize what happened. You're following tracks and everything else. And it makes it so much more fun, frankly. And you learn a lot in that field. But that's a great example of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love reading like the scenarios of like what went down, whether it's just a fired trap, like maybe a deer set it off, or maybe you look a little bit closer and you see a little bit of coyote fur, and like did you roll in your set? did he get guard hair, or did he get like a little bit of his foot and he pulled out? Like weird things happen. So it's fun to play in investigating and detective.
Especially when you're successful. It's less fun when your traps are off and there's no critter in there.
That
Also
is
necessary, but way less fun than the example you gave.
right.
All right. So 2 more questions. This one is specific for you. I want you to think back to old, chubby, pimply-faced Adam Grenda in high school. Can you share like the funniest story you have of Grenda back in the high school days, if you
Oh,
have one?
oh yeah. Well, Adam and I we were pretty close, man. We partied a lot together, drank a lot of beer together. We got pretty wild back in the day. But yeah, Adam's a great guy. Like he's a hell of a bush pilot, good friend, dude. And I got into trapping before him, so he's kind of asked me, hey, how would you set something like this up? And like now he's got into trapping, and like he's showing me set designs on bucket sets with conibear traps and stuff. So like you spread the knowledge, and then you gain knowledge back once somebody else like goes out there and does something too, and they're like, hey, try this out. So like definitely the trapping community is best when you share your knowledge and in time with somebody else.
Yeah. Well, maybe offline I'll get a good Grenda story from high school with the beer drinking days, so I can hold it over his head. All right. Last question. I always end this on a hypothetical. So, would you rather spend a year living completely off the land using only what you trap and tan yourself with no modern conveniences? You can include your family in this scenario, just a
Yep.
fun year off grid. Or teach 100 city kids how to skin a beaver, mount a whitetail, and set a proper dirt hole trap in one weekend.
Ooh, man, I'd probably do the city kids, bring them out, because even if one kid like take gets the trapping bug out of it, that would be a success. Because it would be amazing to live off the land and to trap constantly. That would be awesome. But taking one kid out might not change the world, but it might change the world for one kid. So it's a good opportunity to take 100 kids out, and maybe a couple of them would get into it and do something good for the trapping community in the future. So yeah, I'd take those 100 city kids out, make them all gag at some of my lures.
Yeah, that one's a fun one. All right. Well, Andrew, I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Where
it was
can
a pleasure.
people find more about you? Like if people want soft mounts from you or other mounts or anything else, like maybe plug where you're working right now, how they can get a hold of you, and obviously the 360 Sportsman Masterclass coming out in September.
Yeah, absolutely. Just you can reach out to me on Instagram at northwest.trapper. Just drop me a message. I direct link, and or get a hold of me at Wildlife Creations Taxidermy here in Hayden, Idaho. You can give me a call there, and I'll get you guys all taken care of.
Cool. And like everybody, go spend the $100 or more if you want to get access to other courses through 360 Sportsman. Really great quality content that'll be coming out in September. And until next time, we'll catch you on another episode of the Okayest Trapper. Thanks, Andrew.
Sounds good. Thank you.